Good evening, and can you believe it? Another week and another talking technical, and I mean we've got plenty requests, but what's interesting for me is that everything related to commodities are just flying. But let's kick off with the first one. That's Capitec. Jan is asking about Capitec now. Jan, if I look at this chart, I think we discussed it maybe 6 weeks or 8 weeks ago. I cannot remember. But at that point in time, I showed viewers this beautiful ascending channel. And remember, this is a weekly chart that I'm looking at because a lot of investors, they believe that Capitec can just go up. I mean, this is a stern performer. Yes, I can remember. I actually mentioned that a friend of mine, I think, bought some at around 24 Rand many years ago. And he was so disgusted when he sold them. And look where the share is now. At this point in share, the share is still trading at around 2,101 Rand. So what happens is sometimes you get a beautiful ascending channel. Now, of course, we all know by now that an ascending channel is a negative formation and eventually triggers some selling. But you can also find sometimes that apart from this beautiful channel that you see, it can sometimes bounce above the resistance line and turn it into a support and then turn around. In actual fact, this happened last time as well during January 2022, when suddenly it also bounced above it and then came back. Now, what I like at this point in time is that this share did exactly the same. So I always like if a share starts to repeat the same thing over and over again. Because I've said it many a time before, that I see that shares are nothing else than actors in a big movie or a big play. And the moment they start to show us some repetitive actions, then you can act on that. The negative thing about it, then you see that we've got this beautiful bullish candle. Then we've got this gravestone doji right at the top and an ugly bearish engulfing candle. Now, of course, that unfortunately, Jan, is nothing else than what we call a shooting star formation or an evening star reversal. Now, I would rather say it's a shooting star reversal. Look at that. That's a classic three candle formation, and that's usually a bullish candle, a turnaround doji, and then followed up with a bearish engulfing candle. But as we all know, an ascending channel only gets negative when it breaks the support line. And where's the support? The support is only sitting at 1,956. When it breaks below 1,956, where can it take it to? And that is the big thing. Although we've got the negative formation now right at the top, candle formation, this share can actually go all the way down to 1,646 Rand if this formation plays out, this ascending channel. And that is the negative thing. Always keep in mind, I don't know if you are a long-term investor, but when you are a long-term investor, I will get nervous when this support line turns into a resistance. The next share that we want to look at is Thorn Health Tech, and it's listed on the Nasdaq Stock Exchange. And Bert asked about it. Bert, now if you look at this share, I mean, look at this beautiful formation here. It is a beautiful rounding bottom, but right here at the bottom, there was a few clues. Look at all these upper shadows. And remember, this is also a weekly chart. All these upper shadows told you that in the area of about $5.50, there were some sellers around. But what happened? The moment when all those sellers disappeared, I just want to draw in a line there, it actually triggered a beautiful relief rally. Now, at the moment, the momentum is still clearly to the upside, Bert. Nothing shows at the moment that the share wants to turn around. In actual fact, I think we can maybe head to the top of that candle there, and that will be at $7.77. The only thing that worries me is that we are starting to have a beautiful rally, but look what I see here. I just want to show you here. There's the steep line. I always use that as my guideline. The moment it's a little bit too steep, I'm getting nervous, and I will only get nervous when the share starts to trade below $6.70. At the moment, that looks okay. There's some buyers week after week. This is a strong candle. Look at this beautiful shaven top candle. That tells you that there was quite a few buyers. There was another Rami candle with a nice lower shadow. And then you saw the spinning top. And that's why I'm looking at this support line. If that breaks, you must keep in mind, maybe it can then pull back. And I'll give you the levels where it can go to. It can pull back to $6.80. Solid $6.08, and the big line will be where all these shadows were waiting, and that was at around $5.50. Let's look at Heritage Global, and Fred was asking about Heritage Global. Now, Fred, we know that this company is just under huge pressure. If you just look at it, I mean, there was a sell-off from about $2.50. That was in 2021. Then we had another sell of a beautiful sort of a relief candle. You cannot say that was a turnaround candle because it was only 1 week after that and everybody was just selling again. So what we see now is I see a descending channel here. Just want to draw in the line for you, and then you will immediately identify the same. And this is what we saw last week, when the S&P 500 also had a descending channel. When it broke it to the upside, it gave an enormous squeeze. I think it was 80 points in, if I'm not mistaken, I think an hour and a half. So this is the same thing with any channel, like a descending channel. If a share is under pressure for, let's say, 8 to 10 or 12 weeks, if that turns around, you usually get a beautiful squeeze to the upside. But where's that point? That point will only be $1.30, Fred. Below 130, it can actually move a little bit lower. And remember, we're way below the previous low. So only above 130, it will trigger a buy. Then I will make use of a stop loss of 105. And my target to the top, if I look at it, it can easily take it back to 156 and even 160. I'm a little bit nervous, but this descending channel eventually will trigger a buy. And I think if you do buy it, just stick to your stop loss, because, I mean, who thought at around 178 that this share can go down all the way to almost $1? Well, I've got a friend that's involved with the engineering business, and he tells me that they are struggling to get product. From any big company, they cannot get steel, they cannot get copper. And I think we're looking at Jacobs Engineering Group, and that Debbie is asking about it. Now, Debbie, I'm sure it's not just a problem in South Africa. It must be worldwide. If you look at the prices, I checked the future price the other day of milk, and you cannot believe how milk has jumped over the last couple of weeks. Now, the same thing here with Jacobs Engineering. Of course, I think they struggle to find some product to make, some of the products that they need to make. But, I mean, look at this. From about February 2022, this share rallied from 114 to almost 146, and it's almost close to a high that you've seen in November 2021. Now, I want to zoom it out a little bit and just shows you this share has a tendency, and there you are, when it starts to run, it runs at a steep pace. Now, the same thing here, from about 120, let's call it 120, all the way up to 146. And now I wonder if we will find resistance again at this level. And I want to draw it in there. There's a resistance point. And Debbie, the share is just there at the moment. And then the next one is right at the top. Oh, and we'll get at the levels now. But there you are. So Debbie, first of all, for me, I will say the share needs to break this resistance. And that resistance sits at 149.55. Above 149.55, all the negativity will just disappear. And on 3 previous occasions, there's one, there's a second one, even on the third one, it struggles to get above that 150 level. And if that can break, I think we can see a beautiful rally in the stock. But for me, I will get nervous. I will not buy it at the moment. And the reason being is it must first tell me that it can go above that. So if you do want to buy it or add to your position, wait for it to break 149.55, then buy it there, but then make use of this stop loss. I mean, this is a nice tight stop loss, and that stop loss sits at 145.97. If it breaks below 145.97, I think you can easily see that it pulls back. And of course, this is a weekly chart, so we want a close on a Friday evening, and then we know that the momentum is to the upside. For me, beautiful rally. It needs to break above that. I'll stick to my stop loss, and I think above that it can easily go to 160 and even north of 160. But at the moment, it's just inflation products and commodities are just flying all around the world. And while we're on commodity shares, Merafe is a request from Delcy. Delcy, let's have a look here. And of course, this is a weekly chart again. And what I'm seeing here, I see a chart that is still, the momentum is up. And the reason why I'm saying that, there's my support line. And also, I'm quite happy with the chart at the moment. It looks like that it can still go even higher from here, but it must not break below this level of 153. If 153 turns into a resistance, then unfortunately we can see it pull back all the way to 131. But I believe this little candle, this dragonfly doji, is telling us the story. If it can break, and I just want to draw that line in there, if it can break above that line there you are, if it can break above 174, it can easily go back to this level of 196, and I think it will maybe touch then 2 rand as well. So for me personally, while the support is in place, yes, you can do it. If you want to chase the momentum, buy above this dragonfly candle, make use of a stop loss of 151 to protect your capital, and if it can break above that 196 level, I think your target will be 2 rand on the dot, and maybe usually it pushes a little bit higher to 204, 205. For me, maybe at 199 is a good place to take your profit. But I think if you're a newcomer and you want to chase it now, you may be a little bit late. I mean, if you've got the stock and you want to chase the momentum, just stick to your stop loss, and then you can chase it maybe all the way to 2 rand. Well, we're out of time. Visit our website, www.fransklerk.com, for more info, and we'll chat again.